In this video, we're going to talk about compositing. We have this background image of the Teotihuacan pyramids in Mexico City, and we have this image of clouds. It's an Adobe stock image, by the way. And sometimes you may take photos, and they may be great photos, but the sky may be either gloomy or boring, and you want to enhance it by adding clouds from a different image. So I'm going to show you a technique that you can use that helps you quickly composite clouds into an image without creating layer masks or doing too much work. So I'm going to enable the clouds layer. Then I'm going to double click to the side of the layer to bring up the layer style window. In this layer style window, we have something called the blend if sliders. So this tells Photoshop to either hide or show pixels based on its luminance values. Also, you can use channels. So the different channels are essentially black and white images. So I'm going to cancel this for now and go into the channels panel, and you can see the different channels, the red, the green, and the blue, and they're really black and white images that are telling Photoshop how much light to let in. White means that a lot of that light comes through, and black means that none of that light comes through, and obviously the different levels of gray mean that different levels of light coming through. So we can use that in the blend if sliders to help us make our composite. So I'm going to double click on the side of the layer again to bring up the layer style window, and I'm going to go into the blue channel and notice what happens in the underlying layer when I click and drag this black point here. Drag into the right, and notice that anything that doesn't have a lot of blue is going to shine through. So obviously there's not a lot of blue on the pyramids themselves, so that's why they're coming through. And you can go as far as you can until you start actually deleting some of the pixels, or hiding rather some of the pixels on the actual sky. So right about there. So let me go back just a little bit right here. Once we get to that point, I can hold Alt Option on the Mac and split that point in half so that we have a smooth transition. If you look at the numerical values, this is showing you that from black to this level of gray, which is 153, everything will be completely invisible. From 153 to 184, it's going to be a gradual transition. So now it's going from invisible to visible. At 184, it's completely visible, and from 184 to 255, everything is visible. So that is what those numbers mean. And then you can continue adjusting these blend if sliders by using the underlying layer, or the white point, I should say. In this case, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. I can come and drag further, and it still doesn't make that much of a difference. So you can use the sliders to see what pixels would come through and what don't. In this case, I'm just going to press OK. And I'm not really worried about this area here at the bottom, because once I click and drag the sky up, those pixels are not really going to show. And I'm going to select the lasso tool, and what I'm going to do is create something that I like to call a garbage mask, just in case there's some leftover pixels down there that I can't see, just to be on the safe side. So with that selection, I can just click on the layer mask icon, and it creates a layer mask based on that. Now, the image doesn't look 100% real. That is because the foreground is much brighter. So if I create a curves adjustment layer, clip it to the layer below it so that it only affects that layer, I could just make that image brighter by clicking and dragging that point up. Another method of doing this is by using a levels adjustment layer. So I'm going to go into the levels adjustment layer, clip it to the layer below it, and just drag this middle point slider to the left. And once you get something that's fairly bright, you can see the before and the after, and that looks much more realistic. And I can also adjust the black point or the white point depending on my sky. In this case, I guess I could bring the white or the black point to the right just a little bit. So once again, that's before and that's after.